God. I want to give a big thank you to Shelley Denton, who made her debut as Mary Jane in Jagged Little Pill. She was most recently on Broadway in Smash. Give her a huge round of applause. And thank you to her wonderful accompanist, Cole Plepper. He is an associate music director and pianist for Broadway's Gypsy and Spamalot. I love them. We have a really fun evening planned for you tonight. We're going to look at the role digital technology plays in our food and agriculture systems and fighting the climate crisis. And then we're going to have some wonderful tastings. And then, y'all, we're going to dance. So you have to stay the whole time. It's going to be great. Usually, I think my name is Nierenberg. I am president and co-founder with Bernard Pollock of Food Tank. Food Tank is a research and advocacy organization really devoted to highlighting stories of hope and success in our food systems. And usually I thank the Food Tank team at the end of the night. I'm going to thank them now. I want to thank my co-founder, Bernard Pollock. Round of applause, please. And I want to thank our amazing staff. We're a small team run by there are 4 of us who work full-time, and then we have a bunch of volunteers. So Elena Seeley, Kenzie Wade, Jessica Levy, Jared Kaufman, Emily Payne, Grace, I forgot your last name, Grace Young, Haven, Worley, Elena M., Elena Morris, and then all of our volunteers. Give them a huge round of applause. They're amazing. So I have to tell you the bad news first, and you know it. You're seeing it every day in the news. We're coming together at a really pivotal time in the world. The U.S. government has pulled its support for most of the solutions we need to invest in to tackle our interconnected crises. We have a public health crisis. We have a climate crisis. We have a biodiversity loss crisis. These are all interconnected. Droughts, wildfires, floods, and hurricanes are all increasing in frequency as well as intensity, and an estimated 700 million people face hunger every year, while healthy diets remain unattainable for much of the world. Rising carbon dioxide levels threaten the nutrient density of our food, and industrial agriculture is degrading our soils. But what's so exciting and why we're all here this week, Food Tank has been programming in this space all week long, is that there are incredible tools and innovations and technologies and people that can help leverage all of the knowledge that we have to face these challenges head on. New innovations are helping remove labor abuses and fraud from supply chains. They can help companies improve sustainability while saving on costs. And when designed in partnership with farmers, not for farmers, but with farmers, we can help food producers adapt to the climate crisis. That's what today is about, celebrating innovators and the innovations they're bringing to the world. Before I dive in, I want to thank our partners for tonight. A huge thank you to Better Food Future and my good friend, Mark Kaplan, and just give him a round of applause. He's the most, I call Mark my brother from a different mother. He's just awesome. And then we have the just beautiful in soul and in spirit, Rihanna Lynn from Journey Foods. Please give her a round of applause. And I want to thank our partners at TikTok, Acme Smokefish, the Alliance for Bioversity International and CIAT, the Ocean Stewardship Coalition at the UN Global Compact, Kerry Dairy Ireland, the Meat Institute, Regal Springs, and I'm going to mess how I pronounce this because I'm nervous, Adaraya, and Wholechain for all of their support. So give them a round of applause. This beautiful space we're in is WNYC. Give them a round of applause. And the food that you have eaten and the drinks that you've been drinking are all thanks to our culinary partner, Great Performances, and Liz Newmark. They are amazing. They are just, generous. They are kind, and they are giving you really sustainable food all week long. So give them a round of applause. Thanks to the team at Arva for making the reception that you'll enjoy later possible. Round of applause. And that's the last one for a minute. All right, y'all. The sessions that we've designed tonight are meant to be fast-paced and dynamic. If I cut somebody off or I cut a panel short, forgive me later. You'll have plenty of time to talk to people either later tonight or tomorrow. I hope everyone will join the conversation by using the hashtag ClimateWeekNYC. If you have questions, thoughts, concerns, jokes you want to share, email me at Danielle@foodtank.com. I won't read them, Bernie will. With that, let me introduce our first panel. We have Erik Mittenthal, the Chief Strategy Officer for the Meat Institute. Dr. Augusto Castro Nunes is the head of low-emission food systems research at the Alliance of Bioversity and CIAT. I just learned that this man was a diplomat, a Peruvian diplomat, and then decided to become a scientist. And I'm like, come on, you're making the rest of us look bad. Mark Kaplan, who I talked about before, is the co-founder and chief sustainability officer at Wholechain and the lead for Better Food Future. And finally, Erik Giercksky is the head of Ocean Stewardship Coalition at the UN Global Compact. I messed up your name. Thank you all so much for joining me. Like this panel of men, this is the first time I've seen this all week, just all dudes.
We all kind of look alike, too.
I know. Erik G., I'm gonna start with you.
I meant ball.
And I'm just diving. you meant ball, yeah. Gotcha.
At least we got that going.
We have to get serious. Okay. Erik, we are seeing efforts to make seafood supply chains more traceable and transparent. Really, really important. To give us some context, what are we able to understand about the sector when traceability is improved? And just give us a sense of why seafood is wrought with lots of problems.
No, I mean, just to give some context, and this is an amazing week. I mean, New York Climate Week. Don't underestimate it. It's super good to bring everybody together. And I mean, just having a few meetings with some of the biggest investors, financiers in the world, BlackRock, Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Funds, and so on. And we talked about this, that, it took us 3-4 years to establish the ASC, MSC, SBTI, standards, and we want to promote them to be regulations, globally rules, and that will take another 10 years. But the work that is done by digital tracing is just speeding up everything, and it's a total game changer. And these massive asset managers say there is no place to hide anymore, because they can scrape the data all over the place. So if you have your annual report where your CEO has planted a mango tree, it doesn't really work. You have to really do the job, because they will see you in the car. So there's no place to hide. And I think that's the good news. And of course, seafood has its issues, and we have to have long-term strategies to address the feed problem, transport problem, but also the community problem. How can we make sure that it's the communities that are producing these great sources of food? And I think data is a big, big enabler. And I think, if you're going to support a mango or mangrove forest, you have to go to Kim here and actually do a community-led investment, and not only a performance for your TikTok account.
Can't greenwash anymore, can you?
No, you can't.
I love it.
At least it's harder, much harder,
That's great.
And that's a good thing.
That's awesome. Augusto, I want to go from oceans to land systems. How are traceability efforts helping small farmers in the global south?
That's a very complicated question, because technology is helping a lot the development of products, like products that we can trace.
Can you move your microphone a little
sometimes, from a farmer's perspective, we do not understand if we are solving the problems of them. And that's something that research institute can help to put the data together and to understand the data we are using to solve the issue. One example we have, we were working with farmers in Colombia. And actually, those farmers were producing sustainable milk. But they were selling also calves for production of beef. And the beef production is in the forest frontier. So we have the data to trace the milk, but then we don't have the data to trace the calf. And the calf is driving deforestation. So we have to understand all these unintended mechanisms, unintended effects of the things we are doing. And for sure, data will help, and is helping. And we also need to keep working on the science to back all this information and put solutions in place.
Absolutely. So many unintended consequences. And these situations are complex. These are not simple problems to fix. Great. Thank you so much.
Pretty much complex stuff.
Erik, if I can turn to you. Data standardization, we know, is really important to helping stakeholders all along the supply chain achieve their goals. Can you talk about that, how that's working with, what you're doing in the meat industry?
Yeah, we focused a lot on data standardization over the last several years. Number one, within the meat industry, we really had, until a few years ago, no system to share data across our membership at the Meat Institute, which represents 95% of the red meat in the U.S. and the majority of the poultry as well. over the last few years, we have successfully been able to collect a consistent data set on our practices, both on the land and our impacts on the climate, as well as animal welfare, food safety, labor, and food security as well. And so now that we've been able to do that over the last few years and have a consistent data set, it's a matter of figuring out what is truly the right data that can flow through the supply chain. So we know our sector in the processor, amongst the processors, are doing it, but they need to be able to supply it to restaurants and retailers who are seeking data. And the farmers and ranchers also are being asked to supply data too. And so how do we bring value to the farmers and ranchers, to the data that they are able to bring forward, be able to provide that up the supply chain to make it consistent throughout. And so we've been able to begin that process. We're in the process right now of refining the data that needs to be collected and making it more granular too. So we've been fairly broad thinking about qualitative data over the first few years of our work. We're now getting into how do we have more direct quantitative data that can be compared across the supply chain too. So we want to be able to allow companies to benchmark themselves against their peers, against others, to be able to identify where are they doing really well, where are they struggling, and bring forward resources to help support their improvement.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for that. Mark, you've been such a, and I don't know how else to say it, you've been such a hero to me and so many others, and stop it. Don't look at me like that. And making sure that the seafood sector, that we can do all of these cool things, that you can trace, that you can eliminate slavery, that you can really help small fishers and communities thrive. And I'm wondering, how can you use what you've learned and apply it to what Erik M is doing, what Erik G is doing? Sorry, what Erik G is doing, what Augusto is doing. I think so many folks can learn from what Wholechain has been able to put together.
So that's really why we created Better Food Future with Erik and yourself. So we created Better Food Future in partnership with Food Tank and the UN Global Compact Ocean Stewardship Coalition to take the methodology of creating traceability in seafood, which was to take a standard called GS1, it's the barcode standard, but it has tracking events that are the same across commodities. And then what you do is you apply data elements that are specific to the category to that standard, and then you can create a framework for traceability. So with the help of Tapestry Foundation, who, for those of you who don't know, they own Coach and Kate Spade. They've actually invested in a program to take seafood and reapply it to beef and leather. And actually, we've already done a live program with them in Australian beef, but it was leather-led. And so I want to give a shout out to them. They're in the back here. And now we are working with Kerry Dairy Ireland to reapply the same kind of methodology in dairy. And tonight we're kind of bringing it together. So you'll have, and now I'm living in Mexico now. So you'll see a traceable Mexican lobster tail served with Irish butter, and you can see how this kind of comes together, and the QR codes are in the program so you can scan it and see the story. So like that same methodology is how we take something from seafood and then apply it to beef and leather, and then to dairy, and then soy, and so on and so forth. So we're at the beginning of that journey, but it's pretty exciting.
Erik.
I think this is just a super good example of how we need entrepreneurial craftsmanship, ambitions, partnerships, and collaboration. And of course, the UN would never be able to invent a system like this. It would take 20 years. But we need the UN for other checks and balances, of course. But it's this great collaboration that we have together, where I learn a lot every time I meet with Mark. But it's also about testing out, defining good system that works, and that can be applied in different industries. And going from shrimp to cattle is amazing. And it's
surf and turf.
It's surf and turf. I don't know, the industry really likes it. It makes it so much easier.
It does. Can we talk, you touched on something very important. It's the role of experimentation in all of this, which, farmers rarely get a chance to do that because, the risk is very, very high for them. Can you talk about, how you've all been able to experiment and create different kinds of, data standards?
Yeah, I mean, for us at the very beginning, it was entirely an experiment. Like I said, we had never collected data from the industry in the way that we have been able to for the last few years. And so I think in the very first year of doing it, we learned a lot of lessons in terms of what data works and what data didn't really give us the information that we wanted. And so we've refined that year after year. What truly is the most important data, the most valuable data that we can get to not only bring value to our members, but the industry as a whole.
Absolutely. Augusto, do you want to talk about data and how that, Bioversity and the
Yeah, we have a bunch of data sets, and we have to make that data speak to deliver not only nice beef or sustainable beef, but also to deliver sustainable development for farmers producing that beef, which most of the time, or cocoa producers that most of the time get very little part of the money of selling the product. So questions I have for sure is how much the price of the final product is going to be increased, and how much of that revenue will get back to the farmer, and how can we solve that imbalance between in revenues, and that kind of things. Also, data can help us to understand and provide solutions that are sustainable not only for the final product but also for the revenue and livelihood of the farmers.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I think it's very important, and I think it's a good example. You need the right data, but I think also some data points can provide other kinds of information. So you may be looking for nature biodiversity data, but part of that data set you can actually read the social data out of it. And at the UN, child labor, red line.
Right,
polluting drinking water, red line.
Right.
And when you get enough data, you can start understanding some of these patterns, even though you're actually monitoring climate emissions. So I think these systems are extremely important, and we need scientists who can make sure that we use them correctly. It's a science-based approach. And we talked about science-based target initiative, which was like the gold standard, and we need to cultivate these standards so they can actually deliver a trajectory of improvement. Not black and white, improve everything tomorrow, but that you are actually committed to a trajectory.
That you're on the path.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And every year you improve.
absolutely.
I mean, to talk to Augusto's point of working with the fishers and farmers, I mean, that's been our approach, has been to start from the origin. And then if you start there, not literally starting from zero, but starting from the origin, you can really reverse engineer a supply chain and make sure that the cost does not go up while you improve the practices, because you get the efficiencies from that. And then you discover new opportunities. Like tonight, the lobster is here, but you'll be having a seaweed from a nearby farm, Mayan moss, which we discovered in doing the tour for lobster.
Right.
So like when you get to the origin, you discover all these incredible things that you otherwise wouldn't know if you're just taking your distributor's word for it.
Unintended benefits.
There you go,
I love
unintended
it.
benefits.
That's a great point to end on. Thank you all so much. We're out of time. Thank you. Thank you. Bigger round of applause, please. Before we continue, let me thank a few more in-kind partners who have made tonight's menu so special. Ataraya, Regal Springs, Tilapia, Kerry Dairy, Ireland, Wholechain, and Polmero. So the session coming up is very special, including an immersive tasting paired with our conversation. So please make sure you're in your seats. Please sit down. There are plenty of seats for all of you so that you don't miss the tasting. So let me introduce our panel. We have Danielle Russick, the CEO of Ataraya. Round of applause. Hey. Elena Piana, the Group Sustainability Manager for Regal Springs. Round of applause. Alex Golub is the Sustainability Director for Acme Smoked Fish. And James O'Connell is the Director of Agribusiness and Sustainability at Kerry Dairy, Ireland, which always trips me up every time I say it. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your partnership and collaboration. This is a really great night. I'm going to ask everyone to simmer down a little bit so we can have a nice conversation. We're almost to the party part, everyone, okay? So I have a question for all of you first. As we're talking, there'll be a few bites. Simmer down. I'm going to wait until you do. Great. I'm a stepmother. I'm used to simmering people down. As we're talking, we have a few different bites that are being passed around to everyone. Can you talk about what the audience is about to enjoy?
Not very well. I believe the audience are going to enjoy lobster with our butter on it, our Dairy Gold butter. You're going to enjoy our Charleville cheese and protein balls that contain our ultra-nor protein.
Very cool.
From Acme Smoked Fish, you're going to be tasting our cold smoked ahi tuna, and it's going to be served in a poke cube. I don't know exactly the presentation, but if you like tuna, you'll love to try our smoked tuna.
Amazing, Elena.
Hi guys, Elena here from Regal Springs. We're gonna be passing around some tilapia in a mini fish taco. So you will have these little things with tilapia inside. I hope you enjoy it.
Daniel.
So you're going to be trying, testing local shrimp from Plainfield, New Jersey, that we produce sustainably with no contact to the ocean.
Thank you all so much. It sounds delicious. And again, that'll be passed around. If you're quiet and you're sitting, you'll get some. Otherwise, you won't. So, Alex, building on the last panel, can you talk about how Acme is using digital traceability to improve supply chains? How's that working?
Absolutely. So it's a big issue. I'm sure the last panel touched on it. It's a really big issue specifically in the seafood sector. But I think most commodities are really grappling with end-to-end digital traceability. In seafood in particular, we're impacted by the FSMA 204 regulations, which got pushed down the line, but is still something that...
Wait,
acronyms? Should I explain that?
Yeah.
So the Food Safety Modernization Act
Thank you.
has a piece of legislation that's been passed through the FDA and down to food suppliers across multiple commodities, but it's really looking at food safety regulation and being able to do really fast recalls in case of a foodborne illness outbreak. But the impact of this legislation is that it's really forcing food manufacturers across the country to understand where their food is coming from, down to, it's really kind of a one up, one down system. So each node in the supply chain has to know exactly where their food is coming from and where it's going. And the impact of that, I think, is amazing, for food safety regulation. But I think I work on sustainability at Acme, and I think the potential for traceability, for full chain traceability, can unlock so much more value for seafood businesses, including sustainability, quality, and so many other benefits, both for consumers and food manufacturers.
Yeah, and it really helps, fishers, and ultimately it makes things taste better, right?
Right, and there's the social responsibility component as well, right? Harvesters, if consumers know where their food is coming from, harvesters can really have those assurances, and that transparency could ripple through.
Yeah, transparency is key. Thank you. Danielle, I'm wondering if you can talk about, not everyone is aware of the environmental impacts of shrimp farming. Can you talk about how new software is being implemented to create sort of this alternative model?
Yeah, sure. So basically, the problem with traditional sourcing of shrimp is that it basically needs to destroy the ocean, either by scraping the bottom of the ocean for wild catch or by destroying huge swaths of mangrove to do farming. So the way that we do it is that we basically, in order to not need an ocean, we replicated the ocean environment in our tanks by creating basically a synergetic relationship between a microbiome and shrimp. So basically that's our biotech core. Then we have software on top of that to make it easy, so that we don't need PhDs running our farms. And then we did hardware so that we can make it affordable. We create our own equipment, we manufacture, we deploy it, we do quality assurance so that it is affordable.
Amazing. Everyone got really quiet. Is it really good? Good. Thank you, Danielle. James, if I can turn to you, how do you see digital technology and innovations like AI supporting dairy farmers? Those folks that you're working with so closely in Ireland.
I suppose we have a very developed traceability system in Ireland. We have a national programme called Origin Green, under which all our milk suppliers are audited from a sustainability and quality perspective independently. And we've been making a lot of progress in relation to working with our farmers under our Evolve sustainability programme over the last number of years. But something that's quite clear to us is that looking forward, looking to 2030 and beyond, the level of detail, though it's good and probably very good versus a lot of the world, it's not going to be good enough to really get to, almost micromanaging systems on farms. So what we're looking at the moment is we have a project called Project Galileo that is trialing, various different types of sensors, but very much going towards remote sensing, satellite usage, really, ground truthing these technologies, because we feel we're going to have to bring these technologies into our sustainability program over time to put a framework around our farmers that makes it easier for them to manage their farms and manage, the ins and outs of their farms, from the nutrient flow through the farm, how they manage that in great detail.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're focused on at the moment from a digital perspective.
It's very ambitious, but so common sense. That's what I love about it. It will help farmers in the future do things better.
And it's looking as well at, we have a labour challenge in Ireland from the point of view of labour availability at farm level. And as our farms, which are very small compared to the US, as they get bigger, there's going to be that demand for labour. And we need to take some of that pressure away from farmers to really help them to manage their farms in a way that they're going to be, in the first place, financially viable, but then to be environmentally sustainable as well.
Absolutely. None of this works if they're not financially or economically viable. On that point, Elena, obviously the food that all of us in this room want food to be produced that contributes to planetary health. But for me, and I think for so many of us, that none of that matters if it's not helping communities thrive. And I'm wondering if you can talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Regal Springs is very unique in that sense because, of course, we have all the certifications and all the procedures in place to make sure that the fish is raised the right way all the way through to harvest. But Regal Springs for 37 years has gone way beyond that. It has always operated in very rural and very remote locations, which is great because that's where you get the best fish, in contaminated lakes, beautiful environments. But you have all these communities that are living in poverty. Access to jobs are not many, conditions are hard. So we have always gotten involved to make sure that all these communities are cared for. And depending on what's available to us, we make sure that the approach we take benefits both the communities and the environment. So, for example, in Honduras, we work in some places where we have an issue with water scarcity. So fresh water is not so readily available as it was 20, 30 years ago. That also an issue, it's an issue for them and it's an issue for us. So we look at the aquifers and we know we have a problem, and what we do is not just reducing the freshwater consumption in the farm and in the hatchery, but we also work with the communities and we fit water filters to help them reduce their water consumption and make sure that it's potable what they get.
Right.
And these are people that couldn't afford that otherwise. So, accessing potable water is extremely important.
Absolutely, absolutely. All these win-win-wins that you can create if you're doing things in a really thoughtful way, right?
Yeah.
And using technology to help you do that.
Yeah, we are super imagine being able to work in things like this is, it's a treasure, we're so lucky. We work in Honduras, we also work with our forest protection programs, so we give economic incentives to communities to help themselves to make sure that there are no fire hazard around the community. So if they do their checks, at the end of the year, we reward them with whatever they need to build a school, or whatever it is that the community needs. In Mexico, we sponsored a massive reforestation project for 2 years in a row, but this year we went beyond that, and we it's amazing. We all like to talk about forests and forest protection and the trees, but those are habitats. And as you know, guys, if someone here studied science, when you want to protect a habitat, you need to protect the top species, those ecosystem engineering species. So this year we started also working on the protection of the jaguar in Mexico, because we know that if the jaguar is healthy in those forests, all the animals below that and the trees will follow.
Yeah, so smart, so smart. So my final question for you all, and we've heard it tonight, you're all great storytellers, but it's hard to communicate these issues to a wider audience. Like everyone in here, cares about these issues, but what I've learned this week and maybe my whole life is that we have to start talking to the people who don't know about these things, talk to the people who don't agree with us. How do we tell our stories better? Danielle.
Well, I think that by making delicious food, because that's the way to get their attention.
Bravo,
right?
yes.
Because otherwise, if we're just making people feel guilty and we don't give you an alternative. But I think that in the end, it's all about you enjoying, and the more that you know about your food, the more you enjoy it. That's basically what we strive for, right? And I think that this panel it's basically based on that.
That's a perfect answer, Alex.
Yeah, I think I love Daniel's comment, and I love eating the products that my company makes. I grew up eating smoked fish, so it's just a huge honor for me to be able to work in the smoked fish industry now. But I think part of it's also, how we can connect to consumers, right? Acme sells consumer packaged goods, and so we can do some storytelling on our packaging, make our products pop off the shelf with our 1% for the planet commitments and our eco certifications. And some consumers are going to be skeptical, but for the folks that are looking for it, they're going to know what it means, right? They're going to know that we're a company that's really values driven and committed to sustainability.
Alex, the couple of times I've talked to you now, I know how proud you are of this work, and it makes me really happy. Congratulations on all that you do. Elena, storytelling.
I really like what Daniel said. Just through good food, and I think there's a lot to unpack there. It's so true, because food that has been produced with the best practices, with love and with care and with patience, tastes good. So if we get people to fall in love with food, and we learn to recognize what tastes good and what's good for our bodies, in a way, automatically you are buying sustainably produced food. And of course, there will be exceptions, but I actually think building that relationship with food and really loving the taste of it is so key, guys. And then once you become passionate about some brand, you can go and read about it. But definitely, it's gotta taste good. Focus on the flavor.
Thank you. James, my friend, you get the final word.
Yeah, I think for me it's about transparency. I think we have a transparency issue in sustainability. I think we need to be transparent in what we do, and I think that needs to be communicated in an effective way to the consumer, because to a degree our supply chains are broken from a sustainability perspective because the pull is not coming from the consumer a lot of the time, or it's lost in business-to-business relationships. So for me, it's, as all three of the panelists have said, it's about communicating to the consumer in a transparent way and be very open about what you're doing, and let someone else be transparent and compare to you. It's that simple.
That's great. Here's to a traceable, transparent food system. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danny.
As they're exiting, let me thank a few more of our in-kind partners: Maker's Mark, Bonterra Organic Estates, Farmers Gin, Athletic Brewing, Bears Fruit, and Lundberg Family Farms. Give them a round of applause.